Hello, I'm Malcolm Hazlitt, a ballet dancer leaving Australia with his identical twin brother to join the English National Ballet, becoming a choreographer and a teacher, and then becoming a writer and composer of musicals. We're talking with all-round artistic director Michael Riggs next on Our Time. And I'm here once again with the invisible Janice. Sadly, Janice is still unwell, and we're sending all our best wishes to hopefully to make a recovery by and next Our Time. But in the meantime, our special guest on this episode is amazing performing person, creator, composer and all-round good guy, Michael Riggs. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much,
Now,
Malcolm.
you've only got to live up to that.
I do.
Now, your story to me is fascinating because you're a twin.
Absolutely, yes.
An identical twin.
Yes, only our mother can tell us apart sometimes.
I can't tell you apart. I've seen the two of you together and I can't tell you apart. Last time I saw you together, I was having a conversation with him thinking it was you. So nothing much has changed. Just talking about being an identical twin before we get into your very varied, layered life. Is being a twin a good thing? Do you lose your individuality?
I think you'd have to be, there is some truth to that. Definitely, it's just like having a brother at the same age. And people actually, I think, do compare yourself with your other brother rather than comparing maybe with where you fit in. So as a dancer, we were always compared with each other as opposed to with other dancers of the year.
So did you push each other with developing things?
I believe when we were very young, Andrew was in hospital and every day I would go to the cot and look at sort of...
Oh, this is babies?
Yeah.
Baby stuff?
Yeah, baby stuff. And sort of wonder where he was, and then when he came back, we fought.
Well, that's true.
That's
brothers,
the story my
isn't it?
mother tells me.
Okay, yes. But are you really alike? Do you have the same...
We have our party tricks.
Yes.
I won't share our secrets.
No.
But we can sort of...
But you have, and I know what they are.
Yeah.
I might bribe him later. Yes, you share your party tricks, yes.
Yeah, so we can sort of fool people into knowing what each other is actually thinking without... You know, we do have a...
Prearranged.
Yes, we have
material. Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
What about, as you were growing up, did you both have the same sort of interests? Obviously, you both... Somebody took you along to dance classes. How did that happen?
Well, that's actually the... I got our mum responsible for that, really. The story goes...
All blame their mothers.
I know.
Always blame the mother.
Love your mum, wherever you are, if you're watching. But the story goes that Andrew and I had bandied legs.
Oh, okay.
And a physiotherapist thought that doing ballet would actually be very strengthening for that. So at 6 years old, or the year we turned 6, we were along to ballet classes. And Andrew was very disappointed in his first class because he didn't get to lift any girls.
Right. Well, at 6 you wouldn't quite be doing that anyway. I can understand
basically
but it's such a discipline, Michael. To be a classical dancer, do ballet, it's such an amazing discipline. And most boys don't want to be that disciplined.
I think it actually, ballet or dance in general is actually an excellent learning tool to have for whatever learning you're doing, because the rigour and the discipline and the knowledge and sometimes the picking up of exercises is so good for the brain.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I was just talking a couple of weeks ago to a yoga teacher. We were just comparing the similarities between, you know, the lengthening of your muscles and stretching and feeling you're alive is the truth.
Yeah.
And nothing feels like when you're dancing the flying through the air bit.
No, it's like you see the music and you hear the dance.
I don't think I've ever heard it put that way before. That's lovely. So you're two boys, you're 6 years old and you're going to dance classes.
Yeah.
The performance part of that, the being on stage part of that, when did that happen for you?
Well,
that year, I guess.
Yeah, so every year you would do a ballet dance concert, and we're a part of Mummy's Little Darling's Filthy Children with Ariette Taylor. It's part of when Jonathan Taylor was around as part of the artistic director of Australian Dance Theatre back in the mid-late 70s. And then off to the Australian Ballet School in the mid-80s.
Yes, but now that's not easy to happen either, to be selected to go to the Oz Ballet School.
I think it's actually getting harder every year. it's getting harder, I think, for two reasons. One is that the standard is improving all the time, and so you have to achieve that standard first. And I think the other difficulty that young people have these days is that there is so much on offer. It's quite difficult to actually be selective to follow or to pursue a...
Well, to have the commitment,
yeah,
to develop to that point. But so you're at the Oz Ballet School. How old were you then?
That was the year I was 16, so the year turned 17.
Okay.
There for 3 years.
So it's straight from school?
Yeah, so I actually left school at the end of year 10. I've become a school teacher, so my brother Andrew actually says I haven't left school yet.
Yeah, boom, boom.
Boom, boom. So, so the end of year 10, went to do full-time training at the Susan Taylor School of Ballet, which is actually now the same place where Terry Simpson's School of Dance is. And then auditioned for
We're
Australian
just talking
Ballet
about some local dance schools here in South Australia. But of course the Oz Ballet School is in Melbourne.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yes.
So leaving home to go to Melbourne, was that difficult for you both, or did you have? People talk about is it empathy or whatever that word is that twins have? Do you have that with him, or is it just a wall between you?
I think I don't know. We are who we are.
Yeah.
And
do you read each other?
The body language is definitely there. You know, it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes.
It makes all the difference, especially being married. I know the importance of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the thing is, you've gone through the Oz Ballet School, you've completed the 3 years. What happened next for you?
Okay, well, actually, I just finished dancing Nutcracker, did the Prince and Nutcracker in the graduation performance. I was one of 3 dancers that had the privilege of that role. And I was, of the 3 princes from Nutcracker, I was the one that didn't get a contract with the Australian Ballet. So I actually was quite disappointed at the end of that.
I could imagine.
But Providence, or you could say God, had a plan, which wasn't revealed till later, till the following year I found myself in Europe. And then the year after that in London, joining the London Festival Ballet. And
then you were with them for a while before your brother joined you?
So I was in Zagreb first of all.
Right.
So I got a contract in Zagreb, Yugoslavia, as it was known as Yugoslavia back then. And so that was for 9 months. And then while I was in Zagreb, I wrote to Andrew and said, Andrew, come over here, you'll get a job, which he did.
There's 2 of us that look at identical.
Yes.
You could go on one night, I could go on the next. No one will ever know.
Yeah, we've done things like that. We actually had to learn I think someone injured themselves in Swan Lake, and so Andrew and
you
I
went
were
on
told...
as a swan?
Not quite, it wasn't our swan song.
Okay, oh, boom, boom.
So what happened was that someone injured themselves. We were told at interval, Andrew and Michael, you're going on Spanish in Act 3. So we had to learn between the first interval and Act 3, the Spanish dance and all the other bits of choreo that they had to do. And so from then on, when the company did Swan Lake, we always did Spanish. So that happened.
Look, the life of a dancer is usually fairly short. That's a male dancer particularly. That's the sad thing. So when did the dance start to morph into other things?
Well, it's probably started actually when we were starting to learn ballet, because our mum said to us we had to decide whether or not you're going to do music or ballet. So we made the very mature decision at, I think we were about 11 years old, that we would pursue ballet because we could always go back to music. But we also...
Good thinking.
At school, I learnt the flute and had already learnt the piano before for a year. And I was part of the South Australian Secondary Schools concert band for 2 years, and had done sort of holiday workshops with orchestras and things like that. So that had paralleled with my dance training as well. And because I only learnt the piano for a year, I kept playing it, but I kept making... Andrew and I would make up music. In fact,
did he play piano as well?
Yeah, and we've got another brother, David, and so we make up our own.
He's not a twin.
He's not a twin.
No, he's one of the outsiders. I was just thinking, as you were saying that, how wise to take up the flute, because if you've got to take a piano to a job, it's very hard, but the flute you just pick up and walk off.
Well, you're highly strung, aren't you?
Boom, boom. Didn't know we were going to do jokes, Michael, but that's very good. So we've sort of left you in working in London, and more things happened for you in London.
Yeah, well, how we got into the English National Ballet. It was called London Festival Ballet, but it changed its name about a year after we joined.
Because you joined?
It's a good name.
Yes, it is.
So we were there for a week, and we had £60 left to our name in London between two people. Our rent was £60. So come the end of that week, we could either eat, travel, pay to do ballet class, because you have to keep fit as a dancer.
Of course, never stop.
Or we could pay the rent. That was our situation.
Just hold that thought, and we'll find out what happened to Michael after the break. A special guest in this episode of Our Time is Michael Riggs. We left Michael before the break with £60 and a brother, twin brother, and the rent was $60, and it was either eat, pay the rent, or do classes. What did you choose?
Well, we weren't worried at the time. It's all part of how actually my brother and I became born-again Christians. But the situation was that we could either do one or the other. A week later, we auditioned for the London Festival Ballet, which became English National Ballet. That was on the Monday. On the Tuesday, we signed a contract. On the Wednesday, we started working. And then on the Thursday, we got paid in cash.
Goodness.
Just before the last bit of our £60
money ran out.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Amazing. Well, talking about history, you also met your wife. Was it around this time or just a little later?
It was about 3 years later.
She was a singer.
2.5 years, yes. So Emma was a singer with the choir that accompanied the production of Nutcracker at the Royal Festival Hall.
Right.
And so I'd seen her in the years previous, and the story is that I thought she was a silly little girl and didn't want anything to do with her at the time. But how that the good Lord above has a sense of humour.
Well, we've got some photos here. First of all, of you and your brother.
Yes.
Now, the truth is, which one's which?
Well, Andrew's the one smiling.
Yes.
He's smiling because he's close to his twin brother.
No, he beat you up because you've got the bruises.
So this is from Romeo and Juliet, the ballet at the Royal Festival Hall. And so I was a Montacute in a fight scene, and so I sort of did my own bruises and my own cut lip. So I'm with the green and Andrew's.
And this is actually your family that have now grown up, and your son's standing next to you.
Yeah, so we visited Harry Potter World, North London, and Benji, who's next to me in the blue, he's actually now a student at the Paul McCartney School in Liverpool.
Yes, isn't that
Liverpool
amazing?
Institute of Performing Arts.
This is at the Festival Theatre here in Adelaide?
So we've got the Ballet Nutcracker with guest dancers. They're actually in there somewhere from the Australian Ballet. And we've got Brenton Whittle and Bookworm narrate our shows. And this is one of the casts. I think this is from probably 2011, 2012 for memory. And this is me. I'm actually in there somewhere. I'm sort of to the right of centre. This is actually in New York in 1990. As the company had just changed its name, but we actually went as the London Festival Ballet because the public knew as the company as that name.
And we can see your name there on the second column, almost to the bottom, Andrew Riggs and Michael Riggs.
Yes, absolutely.
It's good to know to say, yes, here's the proof, I was actually there.
And this is actually me. I actually went back to school, even though I left at year 10, and to do a Bachelor of Arts in Dance and then a Bachelor of Education. This is, I think, in my first year. That was with my daughter Sophie. And I was part of the Port Festival years later. And you've got Michael Mills, who you've interviewed
Who'd been on the
before.
show a couple of weeks ago.
So I was a ghost. And so here we have me at the front of the Nutcracker float, which I've choreographed. This is part of the what was the Credit Union Christmas pageant, but is now the National Pharmacy's Christmas pageant. And
now we know what you're going to look like when you're old.
so looking into the past to look into the future, this is the ballet from Onegin, a bit of a blurry shot, but I guess
How old were you then?
I would have been 22, 23.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is your whole clan.
This is almost my whole clan. This is a
Nothing show businessy about this family.
No, production of Scrooge, the Christmas Carol at the Festival Theatre, which we all performed in.
So, Michael, you just mentioned the youth ballet, which is something you created here, but that began back in the UK, didn't it?
Yes, I had a company called the London Classical Youth Ballet, which was, I guess, was the precursor to what would eventually become the Australian Classical Youth Ballet here in Adelaide.
And that's been very successful because you've done lots of shows here at the Festival Centre.
Yep.
But now this has sort of led to the next story of your life, and that's writing music,
Yes.
a musical.
Well, a musical is a story, just like ballet or dance is.
Yep.
And we've had over 21 years, 22 years of being involved in the Something on Saturday production at the Festival Centre. Mm-hmm. And so whether I'm writing the narration for our TV presenters, Brenton Whittle and Bookworm, or whether you're writing music, you're still telling a story.
Absolutely, yes.
But this time you're more responsible for the music or the sound department of it.
But also you've got to create melodies and lyrics together that capture the story and,
Yes.
you know, embrace everybody and build the characterisation of the performer.
Absolutely. To me, whether it's music or dance, in dance you hear the music and you should see, or you should, so you hear the dance,
Yep.
or the action, and you're able to see the music. So from a composer point of view, the emotion of the characters of that piece should be able to tell the story even without the lyrics.
Well, the truth is it's still just part of a creative process, isn't it, of storytelling, whether it's a physical storytelling, an oral storytelling or whatever.
Yes.
We've got a couple of clips of some of the songs that Michael has written from, this is a new musical, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. So this is Esther the Queen, based on the biblical story, set in the land of Persia many years BC, as one of the lines is it. And it's a fabulous story about a young girl, orphaned, who grows up to be the second, or the very highest echelon that any woman could be in the land, from basically almost a servant girl up until the Queen of Persia.
Well, the interesting thing is both Persia at that biblical time and Egypt, I guess, around about the same time, were the two rising world powers, weren't they?
Yeah, so at that time you had the Babylonians and then you had the Persians in history. So it's a world power, and Esther was essentially a refugee in the country that she was living in, orphaned, and brought up by her older cousin called Mordecai. And between the two of them, they actually end up thwarting a genocide of the Jewish nation.
Of her people. Okay, here's a couple of clips from Michael's show with some local performers singing the songs. This is before the show has actually been produced. Insert vision here. If we take away, what, about a minute?
It depends which clip. I've got three. I think about 3 clips to choose from.
Yep.
So they're anywhere between 45 to a minute and a half, depending on
okay.
what you use.
If you could do a bit of a medley with them, perhaps, Jackson, when you come to edit it. Let's leave. If we leave like 30 seconds of each song, would that make sense?
Yep. You can.
So take a minute and a half out of the time. Yep. So wherever you're up to, we'll keep going.
Recording 5, 4, 3, 2.
It's great work, Michael. Difficult, do you see, as you're writing this, do you see a character? Do you see like a costume? Do you see, or do you just sort of see a blur of the person, the character?
The first thing I had to do was actually do a timeline of the whole story and look at where, based on the story, where the songs went, or what needed to be put into the song. And as I continued doing that, I looked at the individual characters and was there enough weight in describing that character?
Right.
did that person have to be explained or
Right.
you know, expounded upon?
I suppose
further?
how much more the actor can put in, or the performer
Yeah.
can put into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think art has its rules, but rules don't necessarily make art.
Yes.
And so how I do things, the simplest way is that I do it however I do it.
Yep.
And is that then clear, or does
Yes.
someone else understand that?
Well, I guess it's the same as dance. And you've been choreographing and doing this sort of work
Yeah.
for all this time. So there are various stages. If somebody writes a musical theatre piece, there are various stages to make this happen.
Absolutely.
So your first stage is obviously coming up with the idea and then executing that.
Yeah.
But then getting it from what's in my head and on the paper to the next level of an audience coming to see it, that's the hard part.
And that's the part which I'm still discovering how that works. It's,
Well, so far you've done an hour-long reading of the show, for want of a better expression.
Yes.
Hearing the songs performed by a company of singers with you narrating. But obviously it's going to go to the next level next.
yeah, I've had several people, including LA musical director, composer, lyricist, give me some critique, and that was very valuable. Even a musical senior lecturer in London of musical theatre gave me some critique, some feedback as well. And at the moment, the work's at 2.5 hours, all up, all sung through. I love the work. My wife and family say I play it too much. But I
And
love
they're
the work.
right into the whole business
Yeah,
too.
that's right.
Just keep that thought and we'll be back with Michael in a moment. So we're talking to Michael Riggs, and we're talking at the moment about a musical that he's written called Esther, and the next stage of it, which is what, Michael?
Well, I'm planning on either 2020 or 21 to take a version of it to the Edinburgh Fringe. Between that, there'd be some stages, so it would be similar to what we did at the Back to Back Festival. I've got some musical theatre performers in the UK who have...
Handy to have those contacts still, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, it's amazing you put things on YouTube and who, you know, you put it out in the universe and what comes back from that. Very amazing.
But we go along to a theatre and we see a show in full production, you think, oh, that was lovely, and then you go home, go to bed and almost forget about it. Mind you, I always think if you see a show live, if you're really there breathing the same air as the performers, it's a much better experience than just watching a screen. But don't tune out yet. But to get it to that next level is a lot of money involved, because really you need it to be a hit, like in the West End or in New York, to get the rest of the world to have a look at it.
I've actually had some really good feedback from musical theatre professionals from the industry, and the feedback has been very, very good. There are some things to work on, like all creative pursuits.
Well, they're also creating too, I suppose. So,
and so far
it's opinions.
Far it's been self-funded. Like I've put in my own hours and time and money and resources, and I've had help along the way with some wonderful people helping that. But it definitely needs more than just love and air.
I understand. Truth is, if anything is worth having, you've got to put the effort and time in.
Yes.
Michael, it's been just great talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being a guest, and good luck with this musical. Fingers crossed in every way possible.
Absolutely.
And it's great to have had your company on this episode of Ad Time. Remember, you can find out more about the show via Facebook, who's on each week. And until next time, when hopefully Janice will return without the flu, keep yourself nice till then. Bye.